Well, the reason people were so upset about the massive influx of the border is just that, because it's really hard to get rid of people once they're in the United States. And the one thing that Trump did, and he did it because it was easy, was he said, we're going to focus on criminals. Well, I mean, there are only so many illegal alien criminals in the United States, and you can deport them all. But it's not going to be anywhere near the number who were just allowed to enter the United States and are now, they have a notice to appear 5 years from now, given to them by the Biden administration.
But if you had put money in the courts and the system, you could have reduced that to like 2 years if you really wanted to do it. I looked at the current budget.
You mean if Trump wanted to do it?
If Trump wanted to do it, you could have said, okay, we're going to speed this up. We're going to invest, going to hire triple the number of judges, triple the number of courts, triple the number of detention, and we will get this system to work properly. In fact, he didn't do that. What they have done is they have increased, I've looked at this, the detention facilities. This is in the bill that's currently the big, beautiful bill that they're working on. Increased detention facilities 364% of money. Increased judges by a mere 30%. In other words, the inverse. They are not actually going to expedite the legal processing of all these immigrants. They are simply going to detain them. All of which, and how do you get rid of them if you are just detaining them?
Well, detention is a prelude to deportation,
but not
in the numbers. So,
well,
clearly,
yes, but my point is you can't do it legally unless you've really invested in the immigration system, which they refuse to do. So they're responding to this with these sort of authoritarian tactics, which don't seem to be very effective.
Well, I'm not advocating this. I think the authoritarian tactics are in part designed to encourage self-deportation. And you can say, well, it's a hell of a bad way to do it, but I think that's in part what they're doing.
Here's how you discourage self-deportation is you pass mandatory E-Verify nationally.
E-Verify has been passed a number of times in Congress. There is a bipartisan consensus in favor of E-Verify in Congress, and there is equally a bipartisan consensus not to enforce E-Verify in Congress. Okay,
but not just Congress. Trump too. Trump too has said we don't want to do that. We don't want to enforce that.
Well, I think if you talk to Stephen Miller about this, I mean, he's familiar with all the attempts to pass and successful attempts to pass E-Verify. He knows it's never going to be enforced. It's just not.
Doesn't that just reveal the total hypocrisy of all this?
Hypocrisy of
if they
Congress?
Don't want,
absolutely.
No, and of the Trump administration. If the Trump administration wanted to say, we don't want any illegals to get work in this country, and the way we do that is we're not going after the illegals themselves. We're going after the employers, which, again, is much better optics from most people's point of view. And immediately, how many millions would not be able to earn a living, and self-deportation would happen instantly. They haven't done that, and I don't understand why that wouldn't be the first and foremost, except it would kill the economy, right? It would kill the agricultural economy.
Yeah, go to Iowa and talk to Senator Grassley about this. They got a lot of meat processing and other processing, agriculture-related businesses in Iowa, and they're not going to do it. They're just not going to do it.
So if you're not serious about enforcing the laws on immigration in the United States, the easiest way. You are resorting to things like invoking this AEA, which is obviously falsely invoked, or you go for this 1952 law that they dredged up to get rid of foreign students. All this horrifying idea that you grab people and send them to this foreign gulag, which again is incredibly unpopular and will, I think, increase in unpopularity. So I just don't get it. Unless this is performance, if it's just theater of hurting immigrants, which does seem to be the case in terms of their advertising how they're humiliating these people, now they're weeping, they're in shackles, all this horrible stuff they're putting out there. It just strikes me as showing a lack of sincerity.
Well, it seems to me that the specifics you mentioned, the Alien Enemies Act and the 1952 law, these are for relatively small groups of people.
Yeah.
Really small groups of people. And
except if you don't have due process with the AA, you don't know how many people you could actually do it with.
One of the things that was talked about before the election, and I'm not sure the status of it, but Tom Homan used to say a lot that there are like 1.3 million people in the United States who have a final order of deportation. In other words, they got the whole shebang as far as due process is concerned, which led to a final order of deportation. And go after those. Those are going to be the first, and that's a million people. That's not a small number of people. And so what are you going to do? Well, I think a lot of people said, it turns out that a number of these people who do indeed have final orders of deportation have been here for years and years. They just never left. And now they're, living in their community, and it's really hard to go in there and grab them and send them back to whatever country they came from. They're finding the principle should be, it seems to me, as far as people who you are deporting because they came to the United States illegally, okay? Not because they raped a child or killed somebody or any other thing, but because they came to the United States illegally, perhaps multiple times. You give priorities to the ones who have been here the shortest amount of time.